Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Crusaders versus the Force here on Super Rugby Trans-Tasman in 2021. And the Crusaders came out on top 29-21. But let's be honest, that is not the big story here. The big story here is they didn't get a bonus point. And boy, oh boy, the Force really did turn up for this game, playing the full 80. And some of that, and also perhaps a bit more because, hey, at the end there, their players they only had 14 players on the pitch, and not because of discipline, but because of injury. Good evening to Crazy NZ there in YouTube. Look, after all of the games in New Zealand on Super Rugby, we try and go live with post-match reaction, and we'll also be doing it for the All Blacks games as well. And we go live on YouTube, Facebook, and also Twitter. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio there. You can get our general shows, or not general shows, you can get our normal shows on as a podcast as well. So check out our podcast, New Zealand Sports Radio. So great. Thank you for joining us, Crazy NZ there. The Force, let's be honest, made a fantastic start to this game. Olawafela going over... wrong one. Kahui there for the extra man, giving Pulu, who steps Jordan and goes over. And let's be honest, in that one, I put a tweet out saying that, look, Jordan, there's lots of raps on Jordan. He scores some fantastic tries, let's be honest. But this season, he seems to have a couple of mistakes in him. He obviously got stepped by Pulu. He also got skinned on the outside. And then he also made that mistake just after half time, where he lost the sideline, allowed the ball to bounce, and Olawafela collected and made a big break. So, look, Jordan, perhaps a bit like gone blank. Oh, Geordie Barrett, who used to have a mistake or two in him a couple of years ago, but has sorted that out. Maybe Jordan needs a year or two before we say he's a nailed on All Black. We'll have to see how that whole selection goes. But yes, don't forget you can join me at Driving Maul on Twitter during these games. I'm always up for a good old chat and a few tweets there. So Jordan got stepped in that one and proved to be human, didn't he, Stephen?
Yes, he certainly did. In fact, we saw it on a couple of occasions this evening. Listen, I've got to say, I really enjoyed that performance. I think that's probably one of the more gutsier performances from any of the Australian teams. Sure, it wasn't a win, but I'm pretty sure before this game, I think most people would have easily expected a 20-point victory to the Crusaders. Or even if it blew out to 50 or 60, I don't think anybody would have been surprised. And especially more so after watching them against the Hurricanes 7 days ago, I thought, well, this will be interesting to see how they approach this. But, man, listen, all we've ever wanted from these Australian teams is to bring a challenge. And I think the Western Force, boy, they did that tonight. If anything, Paul, they'll probably be kicking themselves by, a line-out that just failed at a crucial time and just not quite getting the tactics right. I do wonder if they really had the right person at first five this evening, because it just seemed to me when they replaced Miotti, and I know that's a bit further down the track and you'll get to that, it just seemed the ball movement was just a little bit quicker when the replacement first five came on.
Yeah, no, look, let's we'll go for reaction rather than actually post-match review, which is where we go through every single step. You're quite right. Yeah, Miotti, perhaps a bit slow. He tried a lot of grubbers through that were hitting Crusaders' feet. Now, I think he got. I think probably most of those were done under advantage, but even so, it wasn't working. He needed to try something different. It was over and over again. So yes, Miotti didn't have the best of games. He did make all his kicks, but he didn't have the best of games in that one. You're quite right though about that margin. For those of you who saw my Driving Maul rugby prediction show that I put up on out there on yesterday. Geez, it seems like a year ago. I had the Crusaders by 25 in this one. So look, the 99% of people, or more than 99% of people, went with the Crusaders, as you would do. But they did show a lot of guts in this one. they had that one. I mean, Jordan did come back and score a couple of tries, had one disallowed as well. So, I mean, Jordan is a try-scoring machine. It just defensively, perhaps there's a couple of things to sort out in his game. Am I saying that he should be discarded from the All Blacks and never play for the All Blacks, or he'd be thrown out of Super Rugby? No, I'm not. I'm just saying he's a young guy who's got some things to develop in his game, but he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, Paul, I think it brings up a little bit of balance, because sometimes, people in the media and supporters can get a little bit carried away about a rugby player. Oh man, what great attack he has, and they get a little blinded about the other parts of that particular player's game. And we know that, listen, aerially, he's good in the air, great attack, but all of a sudden we're just starting to see a couple of flaws defensively in his game. And we all know that fullback position, there's 3 or 4 people vying for that fullback position at the moment. Now, if you are going to basically punt on one particular player, you're going to go for a fullback who's got the full package. So maybe we're thinking to ourselves, he may not be quite the finished article at this stage.
Yeah, he's not the finished article at this stage. The ex-Welsh captain said, fullback is a position where you want a guy who does not make mistakes, because mistakes there get punished, as we saw.
It's really interesting. I don't often want to talk about another code or use an analogy, but a lot of talk about the young Warriors playmaker and what a great talent he is at the moment. But all of a sudden, in the last 2 games, they've seen flaws in his game defensively as well, and it's something that frustrates me. Yes, we can see the attack and we can see the ability, but you know what? You've got to complete all those other little tick boxes in and around your game to be an international footballer.
Yeah. Now, what we saw in the Force this evening, the problem we've seen with a lot of Australian teams was that they just can't get over that gain line. That physicality or the magic, they just don't quite have it to get over that gain line. And we saw that in some of the stats here that I just want to sort of point out. The Crusaders, they ran for 299 metres compared to 217 by the Force. But the Crusaders only carried it 83 times compared to 117 by the Force. That means the Crusaders were making 3.69, to be precise, metres per carry, whereas the Force are only at 1.85. Basically, the Crusaders carried it twice as far every single carry than the Force. And that shows you they just weren't getting over that gain line. They would go through phases. Sometimes they would be able to get the clearers there, but other times not. And that caused turnovers. That's led to a lot of missed opportunities for the Force, unfortunately.
But exactly, I agree. But the good thing that the Force did, and you're right, I don't think they have that same sort of physicality that, you think back to Super Rugby, Aotearoa early in the year, and the physicality from both teams, and always a struggle to get over the advantage line, Paul. But I think what you've got to give the Western Force a bit of a tick for is that even though they weren't making ground, and especially in the second half, they were actually able to hang on to the ball for long periods. And even if you sustain hanging onto the ball, you're going to catch the defence offside at some stage. And they managed to do that. Well, they managed to get the Crusaders on a warning. The problem is they just didn't quite manage to keep playing the game in that red zone to create another infraction from the Crusaders, because I'm sure Ben O'Keefe would have gone to a yellow card. In fact, the Crusaders came back on them, put a lot of pressure on them at breakdown, and I think you mentioned there. And yes, it did look like Keystone Cops, but I think that sometimes is a byproduct of basically a team flooding so much pressure on you when they know they're under pressure. I know I jumped the gun again, Paul. I'll let you go.
They have jumped the gun. And to be fair, look, that Keystone Cops was about one moment in the game, not about the overall performance by the Force. Where the crossfield kick, Olowafella throws it back in field. Kieran Droney then has to scramble to pick it up, and he rolls it to his fullback. And there were a couple of moments there. They survived it, which was lucky for them. But that was good to see that they actually changed up things there. They did actually try a crossfield kick.
I was going to say the Crusaders had a Keystone Cops moment of their own as well. Mataele with a flick back in the inside to Scott Barrett, who showed why he plays lock and not second five. And I hope he's not making any claim at all to be an All Black second five. So yeah, it kind of happens.
Well, yes,
and maybe.
Hang on, but Stephen there, for those of you who didn't see it, Stephen there is looking at the wonderful clearance kick that Scott Barrett made, which didn't really go anywhere. We went up in the air a lot, but didn't go very far forwards. I did jokingly put a tweet out that he was making a play for the All Blacks number 12 jersey, which is vacant at the moment for his hard carrying and kicking.
Well, here's a point for you, Paul. Is that just a moment where they're actually a little bit frazzled when you see a team like the Crusaders doing that sort of thing? Because you never see it. You
don't. Now, Big Will Rugby on Twitter has said this is still a second string Crusaders beating a top 4 side, so I'd be worried about that. Now, look, second string, I'm not so sure. You talk about Braden Ennor, he would be first choice in the 13 jersey. Will Jordan's first choice at 15. Havili's been in 12 all week, all season. You got your first choice scrum halves in that pack. We've got we had Scott Barrett. In Cullen Grace. I mean, there's a lot of there are a number of players. There are a couple of players who are missing. So particularly Richie Mo'unga is the key one there, and perhaps we had a couple of young props, but they didn't disgrace themselves by any stretch of the imagination. So when we say a second string side, what we're basically saying here is a Crusaders side without Richie Mo'unga pulling the strings.
Exactly, and that pretty much tells you what a key force he is for them at the moment. And you got to rest them. They got to rest them sometimes. So to me, that was their number one side that they put out on the paddock this evening. And you know what? They didn't get the bonus point at the end of the day. They were expected to beat these guys by 20 points, 20 to 50 odd points. Nobody would have been surprised. I think you got to give the Western Force a hell of a lot of credit. And you know what? If you think back to their very first game, was it against the Chiefs? That's probably a game that they could have won as well. So, some of the traits that you actually see from the Western Force, you can't coach hard.
Absolutely, and look, there's you can. It's called team culture, and clearly they've got a good team culture over there in the Force. I had not lunch. I had coffee this afternoon with Merv Robertson, who some of you guys might know off on Twitter. He lives out here in Waihi, like I do, and we were having a chat about Richard Mo'unga. One of the points I made was, look, I think one of the things that we don't do, one of the things that you see from commentators and pundits is what's called is we tend to refer to coloured players, brown players, as basically being powerful and physical, and we tend to refer to European players or white players as being intelligent. Whereas actually, I think that's what I think has been missed out here. If Richard Mo'unga was white, and what we have a lot of talk about is how clever his game is, because that's what we're seeing here. He hasn't got great pace. He's quick, but he's not a Bowden Barrett quick. But he spots a gap and he goes for it. He's gone, and that's because he's great at spotting opportunities and has a great rugby brain and is a fantastic, intelligent player. He'll spot as soon as he's got 2 forwards in front of him, and he'll just go between them because he knows he can. And that's reading the game. That's reading the situation, having the calmness, the foresight, the intelligence to spot those opportunities. Just remember back to last season when he did that grubber restart and collects it himself. That's not something that's been coached. That's not a Tony Brown coaching thing. That's him on the spot with a fantastic rugby brain pulling off a great move.
Well, as I said, I think during our rugby chat, I said, imagine if they had a DMAC, the Force had a DMAC. Imagine if the Force had a Richie Mo'unga, how that would change the dynamics of the way that they play. I mean, I love the way guys like Richard Kahui, I tell you what, he might be 35, 36 years old, but boy, he still plays a smart game of rugby. And I thought they were very good. It's a shame they lost Tony Pulu to injury as well. So, listen, I enjoyed this game. I just enjoyed the fact that they stayed in the fight. They kept me engaged. We had a chap on our rugby chat. He said he's falling off to sleep. Well, I hope he got up and watched the second half, because to me it was a very enjoyable game to watch.
It was. The problem we have is, look, we came into this one with so much preconceived conceptions to what the game was what the game was going to be. It was hard to get into it in the first half because you're thinking, yeah, fine, the Force are keeping themselves in it for now, but we know the Crusaders are going to roll off their bench and score 50 points in the last 20 minutes. And that didn't happen, which is great. But in that first half, you're thinking that's what's going to happen. So it makes it hard to get engaged with the game. One feature of this we haven't talked about that we probably should do is I think there were 3 disallowed tries in this game in total. So we've still got a game that was 29-21. I mean, that's not a low-scoring game, and yet we had 3 disallowed tries. What we had, there was a real tough call against the Force for blocking a runner at when they were trying to charge down a kick. Yeah, not a great one there. But
and yet, Paul, we saw something very, very similar in the second half, where the Force player chasing through once again gets taken out. Now, he may not have been taken out or taken out in the line. So this is my issue. What is that? You know, if it doesn't affect the play, to me, carry on. If the guy's got no chance of getting there, a simple little word to the player, hey, we're watching you. I don't think you have to blow every little thing up. But, probably from a Western Force point of view, they'll probably look back at the neck roll. Gee, that was crucial. It wasn't required. They were winning the breakdown. Wasn't required. And the other one was just really, I think, when the Crusaders scored their first try, was just a simple ball movement. If they moved it wide, they'd find space on the outside.
So we had that, and the Mattielli one was disallowed because of knock on. Boy, if you didn't have cameras, you wouldn't spot it, would you? That was marginal. Going back and looking at that one, one of the Forces, there were some Force boots at the back of the ruck. I mean, look, the player could not see his feet. He had no idea what was going on. That didn't stop someone getting yellow carded the other week. But anyway.
No, listen, I know one of our colleagues mentioned the Hoskins Satutu one earlier in the year, but you know what? Hoskins knew exactly what he was doing. Aaron,
that was
you're watching the show. Hoskins knew exactly what he was doing. If you saw that guy's foot, mate, he's covered by a whole lot of bodies, and he just moves his foot, happens to knock the ball. Seriously, it's not even on the same plane.
So that was which is interesting. What we had another one where the kick was kept infield by the Force, but they missed the fact that he stood on the line as he landed, and then the pass was appalling, which got dropped by Miotti. Fefu Douglas pops the ball up to Jordan, who scores. And as you said, what was the AR doing? His job, he has 2 jobs to do. One is to watch offside. 2 is to watch people stepping on the line. And at that point, he hasn't got to look at offside. All he's got to do, his only job is, has this guy stood on the line? And he missed it. But hey, thankfully the TMO picked it up and saved the Force there.
I was happy because I don't think the Force really deserved that. And unfortunately, I think if that try had stood, I think their heads may have gone down.
Yeah, maybe that was a bad one. So we had that one. There was another one that was disallowed that I can't remember now. Fine, now it was a Force one as well. But anyway, 19 phases. And they went back for a forward pass. 19 phases. That was impressive. So yes, we had 3.
Was that the Kahui forward pass?
Kahui forward pass just on half time. Now, if they'd scored a try then at 24-14 and been 24-21, boy oh boy, it would have been game on. that would have, or even just 24-19. That would have been really, really game on. But look, the Crusaders did what they do well. Okay, fine. We had what was I going to say? I've just seen Aaron's comment in the live chat. Sorry, folks, where he said, "Gee, Steve, that's biased commentary against the Blues, just like Sky Sports commentators." Rubbish, Aaron. We're all pretty much all Blues fans on this channel. But
I thought he was asleep anyway.
He's supposed to fall asleep from that game. Yeah. No, he's got a long night. He's got to watch the cricket. Remember?
He's sleep writing on his computer. Are you sleep writing on your computer?
Anyway, I've lost my train of thought now with that one. But look, that overthrow, you say the neck roll, the overthrow. Look, the Force got into the Crusaders 22 plenty of times, particularly in that second half, but just were not clinical. The Crusaders, though, straight down the pitch, score, bang. You don't have to. The Crusaders don't need the ball to win a game. All they need is a few opportunities and they'll score them. Hence why in this game, they only had 39% possession and 38% territory. They spent this whole game in their own half without the ball, and yet they still win it. And that is you've got to say this Crusaders team is clinical, is is a quality outfit. No matter what you say, about them being, this isn't a second string side either. This is a side that is missing one particular player, Rich Mwanga, who pulls their strings so well. They've put a guy in there to replace him who's pretty much had no game time. He's been on the bench, had maybe 5 or 10 minutes. He's asked then to step up and play a full game. May have had a couple of full games at club level if he's lucky. And for him to be able to do that shows you the quality of training sessions they run, that he can step up and play when he's as an inexperienced and had no game time player. So I've gone blank as the fly half's name now for the Crusaders in this game.
Fergus Burke.
Fergus Burke, thank you. So hat off to Fergus Burke. Look, he didn't set the world alight, but he also didn't make any howlers either. He had a decent game, and when you consider how much game time he's had, that's pretty impressive from him, to be honest.
Oh, very, very much so. Listen, speaking of impressive, I thought the number 8 making his debut, Callan, for the Western Force this evening I thought he was very good, and wherever he was, Korteka, I don't know how many times Kane Korteka got his hands on the ball, but it was very, very impressive.
Yeah, and he got a try as well for one of Callan's 7 runs. So well done to him with that one. 7 runs for 2 meters, but hey, those 2 meters got him over the try line. And that's all that matters. And that shows that they did struggle to get over that gain line with some of the players like that. He also got through a chunk of work with 12 tackles, with a top tackler for the Force as well. Another player who played well, I thought, was Havili Talitui, who also got himself a try, 15 tackles in this one as well. So he had a decent game in that one. Two players. Another guy who's played very little, Williams. Boy, he's a big man.
Oh,
or a big boy.
Tamati Williams, originally from Kerikeri, actually, up in the far north, and I know he played for Kerikeri First 15 and Whangarei Boys High. I know that's one boy that Taniwha would dearly love to get home at some stage, probably towards the end of his career, though, Paul, because I'd say the Crusaders are probably going to lock him in big time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, he made one error just before he got pulled off, which was to stand still and not retreat when the ball was dropping. But look, he was knackered by that stage. I'm guessing that's why they pulled him. You got to say he had a decent game, even if he did and very nearly got towards a try, but just lost control of the ball over the line with a fantastic tackle by Cabelli, I think it was, who stripped him of it in there. We should also point out that the Force actually finished this game with 14 players because of an injury to one of their players who had to go off with a thumb injury. And they turned the ball over, a couple of phases. Godwin looks downfield. There's no one back for the Crusaders, so he kicks deep. Oluwafela puts on the burners and scores on the 80th minute. It shows you that the Force, as you say, showed heart, played the ball all the way through, and that try was important. It denied them a bonus point.
And great vision, and that's one of the reasons why sitting at home in front of your TV, you can't always see that big picture, because I was thinking at the time, what are you doing? Oh, okay, that's what you're doing. It turned out, obviously, great vision.
Yes, as Stephen says, yeah, don't kick the ball away. Oh, do kick the ball.
Brilliant kick.
So yes, wait for our alternative commentary, and you can have some fun in that one. So look, 9:30, so it's an earlier kickoff. Oh, no, it's 9:45. We've got next up. We've got the Reds versus the Blues, which I've gone for the Blues by 3 in this one. Can the Reds go back to back? What are your thoughts on this one, Stephen?
I heard that James O'Connor has been a very late withdrawal from the Reds team, so that's a huge huge loss. I would imagine Hegarty will go into first five. Listen, I think it's all there for the Blues. I think if they win tonight, I think they've pretty much got one hand on a opportunity to go to a final, let alone host a final. That'll just leave them with the Western Force of all teams next week. They won't be an easy nut to crack, but listen, I think they've got to get past this Reds team first.
Yeah, at home as well.
At home as well. Gee,
yeah. So
I think the Blues by 12 and under.
So Matthew Platt says, yeah, Battle of the Colours. That's great. That's coming up. So yeah, don't forget that one, folks. We'll be back on Sunday evening, 8 p.m. With our review of the whole round. Any other final points about the four Crusaders versus the Force?
No, there was a player playing his 50th or 100th game for the Force this evening, from what I understand. I'm just not 100% sure who that was. They just mentioned it in the interview. So whoever that player is, congratulations on that particular milestone, whomever that player was.
Whoever you are.
While Paul is looking on the internet to see who's played that milestone game, just a reminder, I'll be up in Whangarei tomorrow at the Northland Rugby Union Centenary, and they have 3 games, which kicks off with the Farah Palmer NPC trial for the Northland Kauri. That kicks off at 11 a.m. That's followed by the Johnny Isaacs Memorial. That's an under 21 Māori tournament, and of course at 3 o'clock is the Northland Tarifa NPC trial. Now all those games will be live streamed, and yours truly, if he's got a voice, will be commentating all 3 games. I don't know how I'm going to get by, to be brutally honest, though. But looking forward to it, and of course the Centennial dinner, which starts at 6:30 tomorrow evening. So going to be a long day. I should be going to bed early, but you know what? I'll stay up and watch a bit of the Blues Reds game. And
look, and he hasn't even invited me along to be the expert analyst next to him. Jeez, I don't know.
I only found out like today.
I can still make it. Hey, you know what? Anyway, just joking. Have a great time up there, and folks. Yeah, do check in on that one. It's a great milestone for Northland Rugby. That used to be, remember, it used to be called North Auckland, but no, they've got Northland up there now. So there you go, folks. That's our quick reaction to the Crusaders versus the Western Force. And as Aaron says, Stephen, do keep your vocal cords well lubricated.